Y'all, did you watch what I watched? Is Lady Danbury Lady Violet's stepmama? I can't even discuss what happened in episode 5, but we're gonna get to so much stuff soon. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As always, it is I, Miata Lebele. I am an actress here in Los Angeles, California. I am also a deep lover of all things romance. I read a ton of romance novels. If you need any recommendations or you just want to talk romance, go follow me at Goodreads. That's where I have all of the books that I'm reading, but I'm a huge lover of romance. And so I had read the Bridgerton series and I decided to start reviewing the Bridgerton series, and that is why I'm here today. Before we get started on this review, remember to like, subscribe, thumbs up, whatever. I don't know, just like stay here for a while, be a part of the community, leave some comments below. I'm gonna let you guys know, my husband reads the comments. My husband is so sweet. He's so proud of me, and he's like, I read the comments. And I keep telling him not to, because some people are mean. And he's like, no, I read those too. And so anyways, be nice. My husband's in the comments with y'all. I don't know why he's there, but he is. Okay, and before we go any further, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been on this journey with me, been on this channel with me since my start of doing Bridgerton reviews. Thank you. I love you. Thank you to all my subscribers. And also, guys, thanks to these guns. Look at these motherfucking guns! It feels like a segue, and it is, but I did not tell you guys that it started powerlifting last year, and I feel very powerful. Okay, so I just finished the season of Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story. I am just going to say this review is going to be a little bit different than my other reviews. Normally, y'all, you know I ramble. I just be talking sometimes, right? I'm actually going to somewhat try to follow a format where I'm going to give a grade to different categories, right? And I'm going to go more in depth on some categories, and some of them I'm just going to say how I felt. Maybe I'll just say a little blurb and then I'll continue on. So I just want to say I am going to give a grade to this season, but I'm going to give a grade to the season at the very end. But I will start off on saying how I felt about the season. Did I like Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story? Bitch, yes! I fucking loved it! I am in shock. I am shook. I already did a review. I had already seen the first episode, and I'd gone to an early screening, and I gave my viewpoints, kind of my overall reaction to how I felt about that episode with no spoilers. We're going to give some spoilers here, but I do want you guys to know that I will be doing episode by episode breakdowns of the entire season as I did before. I'm going to be doing them drunk as I did before. So if you guys like me to be filthy, raunchy, and drunk, come back for my other reviews. If you're here, it means you want to know how I felt about the entire season. And I really liked it. I would even say, for me, I loved this season as much as I loved season 1 of Bridgerton. Oh, fuck! Shit, are y'all booing me? I don't know. I really feel like this season is deeply divisive, and I feel like even within the people that follow this channel, you guys, I feel like a lot of us have a lot of similar opinions, and that's why you guys follow this channel. I feel like even within my own community, I feel like we're going to have differing opinions. That's hard for me because I want to have the same opinions as you. I do. I'm a people pleaser and I want everyone to love me. I am a Leo. But I feel like some people are really going to love this season and some people are really going to hate it. And I don't know where anyone's gonna fall on that. How I felt, however, is I really enjoyed it. And so let's just start breaking down the things that I liked, things I didn't like. We're gonna go category by category by category that I have arbitrarily made up. And well, I did make up the categories. They are words in the English language. But I have no reason for going in this order. It's just what I'm kind of feeling in the moment. So let's talk about season 1 of Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story. Before we fully jump in, I just want you guys to know a few things. Season 1 of Bridgerton, I absolutely was kind of checking Reddit threads on Bridgerton. I was checking Twitter on how people felt about Bridgerton. I was really in the fan base, online. Season 2, I did not. I was not, guys, you already know if you've seen my other stuff, I wasn't feeling season 2. So I was not really interested in overall Discourse. This season of the spinoff, I'm not getting involved in the discourse. There is discourse out there, and it seems kind of vicious People are angry about the historical inaccuracies. People are angry about how they treated race. People are probably, and I haven't seen this part yet, people are probably angry about how they treated King George's mental illness. I just want you guys to know I am not in the discourse. I am currently taking a break from social media except to post my own shit. Sorry about it. I am so overwhelmed with how bad the world is right now. I need a reprieve. So I am watching Queen Charlotte. I'm giving you guys my viewpoints. But if you guys are like, hey, Miata, did you see that article where it said if you like Queen Charlotte, you're a bad person who hates blacks? I'm sorry, I didn't see the article. Frankly, I'm probably gonna ignore that article, okay? So I am not really on social media right now. I am ignoring most of any sort of big thoughts and think pieces about the show. I'm going to say how I feel. I am actually very thankful, though. I have a few followers who have been in my DMs on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram and giving me their thoughts. And it's actually been kind of helpful to see kind of like where they thought the failings were, because it's also helped me be more critical of certain things as well. So I'm actually very appreciative of that. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with, as a romance novel fan, as a romance lover, as a person who just loves to swoon, how did I feel about the romance? Loved it. I'm going to try not to cry because I'm not going to do that bitch ass thing. I'm not going to fucking cry on camera. But I finished the season sobbing. I just finished episode 6 and I was crying on my couch. I really loved them. Now, I know part of the discourse is probably going to be Black women are always in struggle love. If you know what struggle love is, like, Queen Charlotte's got to hold it down for her husband. Like, she's got to hold it down for him. She's got to hold it down for a nation. I feel you on that. But overall, how did I feel about the chemistry between the two characters? Did I feel like they were in love? Guys, yes. And somehow, a lot of times when two characters like each other and then they get together, the relationship loses a lot of the steam, right? A lot of the sexiness kind of goes away once you have the two characters together. I never felt that here. I really, 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 really liked the two of them together. I felt like they were in love. I felt like King George fucking loved Queen Charlotte. And so the moment in episode 6 where King George and Charlotte finally have the I love you scene, that is straight out of a romance novel. Like, guys, if you read romance, you know the I love you scene where they're screaming I love you at each other. Does it get any better than a man saying, I love you? Like, no! I wish men scream that at me all day. Women too, everyone scream. They love me. Again, a Leo. So I know this story is deeply sad. It is deeply sad, but we should have known that. We all knew that King George was the Mad King if you watched the first 2 seasons of Bridgerton or the musical Hamilton or just, you know, your general history classes. We all knew that King George was called the Mad King, right? So we knew that there's not a happy ending here. This is a woman in love with a man who is deeply mentally ill. I'm just going to read this straight off of Wikipedia. If you guys do not know, that they believe that George he obviously had a recurrent and eventually permanent mental illness, and they think it was either bipolar disorder or a blood disease called porphyria. So yes, this is a man with deep mental illness, and watching their love story was really hard. If you have any sort of mental illness or you love a person who is dealing with deep mental illness, this may be a very hard season to watch. I am going to say that. If you have not watched it yet, but you're watching my reviews and you're like, hey, I don't know if I can deal with that, I just want you to know this is very, very hard to watch, okay? That part is hard to watch. As we've seen in this, as we've seen in other media, as we have learned, if you guys seen... Have you guys seen the Secret Garden, the 1994 Secret Garden, where they kind of like tortured the little kid trying to get his legs to work again? They just used to straight torture people into being better again. And watching him be tortured on screen was very difficult. I'll probably talk a little bit more about that once we get to talking about characters. But yes, that was hard to watch. It was hard to watch him believe he was not worthy of Queen Charlotte's love. But if you're like me and you suffer from mental illness, you know what it's like to be in love with someone and feel like you're bringing them down. So there's this moment where King George says, I can't go to her. Like, basically, he calls himself a troll. He says, I am a troll. I cannot go to her. I am a troll. And that was so fucking awful to hear because I have called myself a monster so many times. Like, in front of my husband, I'm like, I'm a monster. I don't know why you love me. I'm a monster. I am a beast. I am this. I am that. And if you ever are dealing with deep feelings of self-loathing or self-hatred, this is hard to watch, okay? But I will just say, watching the two of them together was so lovely. I loved them together. I think they had immense chemistry. Maybe you felt different, but I felt immense chemistry. And I said this before in my last review. It's not like this deep sexual longing, right? It's there, but it's more like first love, which I found adorable and sweet and innocent and lovely. I loved that they loved each other and didn't know how to just come to each other and say it, but they fought for each other in different ways. He's fighting for her by being tortured. She's trying to fight for him by trying to be like, come back to me. I believed every part of their love story. I loved it. We will obviously talk more about race and all that shit later on because So as far as romance goes, I'm going to give it a score of an A. Oh, sorry. Before I move on to the next category, the sex. Now, we're not going to talk about Lady Danbury stuff. We're going to get to that when we talk about Lady Danbury. We're going to talk a lot about Lady Danbury. But as far as the beautiful, blooming sexual relationship between these two young people, them kind of discovering each other, the whole montage of them hating each other but having tons of hate sex, loved it. I loved it. I thought it was hot. I thought it was beautiful. I just loved them together. I loved them together. If we talk about seasons 1 and 2 of Bridgerton, I feel like Reggae carried all of season 1. I know a lot of you are big Phoebe fans. I know a lot of you are big Daphne fans. I think Reggae is the reason why season 1 worked, and I talk about that in my reviews as well. And season 2, what did we even get? What do we even get? Do you guys want to talk about that sex scene again? Because I have conservatively 24 hours I could talk about how lame that sex scene was between Kate and Anthony in season 2. Anyways, I am just delighted. I was delighted by their sex scenes. I was delighted by their romance. It just felt like watching love bloom. And that's all. I couldn't have asked for anything more. Very quickly, I just want to go through a few categories that we basically have at the Academy Awards, with the exception of one category. Let's talk about the writing, the casting, the directing, the cinematography, and kind of the costumes and production design. Guys, honestly, I fucking love this show. I thought the writing was fantastic. I think this is... Shonda wrote the pilot. Let's just see. Did Shonda write the rest of the show? I'm going to check real quick on IMDb. Okay, so I just checked IMDb. Shonda wrote on every fucking episode. And I'm so excited for this show to have Shonda writing on every episode. I think Julia Quinn was involved in every episode. But let me tell you why it makes me mad. Because we watched what happened in season 2, and how wonderful would season 2 have been if Shonda had been involved. I'm going to try not to consistently spew out my disappointment in season 2, but if you guys notice, the pacing of this season, it probably felt slow for some of you because you're used to the Bridgerton being all over the place kind of pacing. But pacing has been an issue. I think part of season 1 had some pacing issues. Season 2 was just an absolute train wreck in terms of pacing. If you notice, this season was focused. It was focused, it was focused, it was focused. When it wasn't focused, episode 5, is when things actually fell off. That's actually when I was like, something weird is happening here. I'm not really connecting with the story. And I think we kind of course corrected in episode 6. It's so frustrating to me that we had a season with my favorite storyline and it was just such a train wreck compared to this show where like the writing was tight. They were like, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens, moving on. This happens, this happens, this happens, this happens, moving on. Everything is related to everything. Even the flashbacks were related to what was happening in the story. Nothing felt wasted. And that is such a gift as an audience to be able to watch a story that just moves. But it is very frustrating to also realize that there could have been this sort of tight storytelling in the second season, which I was most excited about. In terms of writing, I'm going to give it... There were some issues in episode 5. So instead of giving it an A, which I would love to give it, I'm going to give it somewhere between a B+. I think it's probably a B+. I think it's excellent. I just wish... I think episode 5 in particular starts to suffer from the let's go here, let's go here, let's go here, let's focus on all these people. And we didn't really focus on George and Charlotte. And as a result, I think the story I started to lose interest. I found myself wanting to text and be on my phone. So I think that is the one mar on the season. So I'm just going to say maybe B plus for writing for me. In terms of casting, I thought everyone was really well cast. I think it's very funny. If you know anything about me, you know I'm going to talk about colorism. You know I'm going to talk about colorism. And I think it's very funny that Lady Danbury in the future is a biracial black woman, but Lady Danbury in the past is dark like me. I'm here for it. I'm here for having dark-skinned black women in the show. We're going to talk, though, a little bit about how that dark-skinned black character was treated, because it wasn't great. So we will talk about that. But as far as casting goes, I honestly enjoyed everyone. Quick, let's go through the cast. We have India as young Queen Charlotte, Adjoa as Lady Danbury, Michelle Fairley as Princess Augusta. We love seeing our Game of Thrones queen. Ruth Grimmel as Lady Violet, Corey as young King Charles, Golda again as Queen Charlotte, and then Arsema as young Agatha Danbury. And then I think I'm just going to mention Sam Clement, who played young Brimsley. Those are most of the people that I'll probably talk about on the show. There's other people, obviously, but those are the main cast. I think everyone was fantastic. I have no complaints. I especially loved Michelle Fairley. I thought she did an excellent job with Princess Augusta. Obviously, everyone was good, but I was like, what they gonna do with this lady? And I thought her highs and lows, her seeming so cruel, but it being about a mother trying to protect her son, I adored it. So casting, A. I loved it. I loved everyone. You know I'm a hater and I wanted to hate everything because I'm also an actor and I wasn't cast in this, but I fucking loved it. A. Directing and cinematography, I'm just gonna place in one basket. Beautiful work. Guys, at points they had handheld cameras, shaky cams. You saw there was this moment where it's on Michelle Fairley's face and you can tell it's a handheld cam because it's shaking just a little bit. And it's this really tense moment between her and I believe young Queen Charlotte. And just beautiful. At the very last episode, whenever he gets under the bed and the whole world turns and it's just them, gorgeous. They were experimenting in this series in a way that we don't really see them experiment in Bridgerton. More of it. Give me more. Be as beautiful and ornate as you want to be in your cinematography and in your directing. I thought it was fantastic. I love that they were experimenting with how artistic they wanted to be with this show. I thought it was great. So I'm going to give an A to both directing and cinematography. Costumes, production design. I'm probably just going to mostly talk about costumes. Production design in Bridgerton is always just very funny. Costumes are too. It's always anachronistic. What I will say is I like the costumes on this better than I like the costumes on Bridgerton. I noticed the costumes more in this than Bridgerton. I think on Bridgerton we have a lot of the Regency A-line, and we see that when they cut to everyone kind of in the future, probably in the 1810s, we see them in those Regency dresses. I really liked the costumes on the show. I thought the women looked stunning. I loved every coat George wears. George has this coat, I believe in episode 4, that's black with gold specks on it that is stunning. Lady Danbury, though, older Lady Danbury has this coat in the very last episode 6, that's blue with gold kind of splatters on it. Beautiful work. So gorgeous. I'm not going to talk about whether it's anachronistic or not. If you guys care about historical accuracy, go watch Bernadette Banner's channel, okay? I have watched Bernadette Banner. I think she is delightful. If you care about historically accurate costumes, hair, all the things, Bernadette's going to be on it. Here, it is not me, folks. I don't know where fashion is from. I just wear stuff. So I love the way everyone looked. You can kind of see Queen Charlotte start to wear more wigs towards the end of the season. Do we know if there's going to be a second season? I should probably look that up. I'm not going to look it up right now, but I would love to see her evolution. So if you want historically accurate costume analysis, go to Bernadette Banner. Again, like I said, I don't be knowing what I'm talking about with fashion. I just know when I like something. I loved the costumes. I thought the women looked stunning this season. I loved how everyone looked, but maybe that's also because I'm very anti-Regency dresses. What that gonna do? What that gonna do for nobody, okay? You can't even see the shape. You can't even see the body-yaddy, right? So I love seeing all these women corseted up. I love seeing the titties sitting high and pretty. I loved it. So I'm just gonna give all of that an A as well, simply because I am uneducated and ignorant about fashion choices in this time period. Okay, so we're gonna talk about character journeys, character choices, what they did with characters. This is probably going to lean into, I have another category that's talking about like historical inaccuracies and racial issues. And I think I'm just going to probably end up mixing some of those things together because there's not really a way to talk about certain characters without talking about how they treated race in this show. So strap in because let's talk about it. Let's just start with the one character that I honestly think I'm going to give the most time to, and that is Lady Danbury. What the fuck? I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to begin. So this is a character that we know from the TV show. I am also a person who has read the books, like I've said before. The Lady Danbury of the books is extremely different than the Lady Danbury of the show. I would say the Lady Danbury of the books has the personality of the Queen Charlotte in the show. They use that personality. It is now Queen Charlotte. So now they have Lady Danbury as a slightly more, I would say, is a slightly more sympathetic individual. In the book, she is just wit. She's just sharp wit. She's gonna cuss you out and then hook you up with somebody because she has like a really soft center, but a really like hard, crunchy kind of outside, right? On the show, I feel like they've never quite figured out what they want that character to be, particularly older Lady Danbury's character. It felt like she was one way in season one, felt like she was a different way in season two. We're starting to see more of who she is now, especially as they're focusing on the older female characters in this show. But she is kind of a not really set in stone character, and I feel like I really felt that with young Lady Danbury. But we can't talk about Lady Danbury, young or old, without talking about colorism and race issues. Lady Danbury in the past, especially in the past, maybe not in the present. In the present, she is a caramel toned queen. In the past, she is a dark skinned black lady. And it is hard to talk about how she was treated this season without being like, this is how shows so often treat darker skinned black women. Lady Danbury comes into the show married to an absolute fool of a man. And I have talked already about how I feel like Lord Danbury's character, I'll just say it here. Lord Danbury's character, if he had a Southern US accent, would be considered a minstrel character. The way he played the character was just deeply, I said it before, I said ick before, but something about the performance was off-putting to me. I've seen people describe it as cringe, but there's something that I feel all of us feel very like, oof, about the character. We're not supposed to like him. We are supposed to think he is silly and dumb, but there's something else there that is turning people off to that character. And I think it partly is performance. I think it's partly makeup. Everything about how they did his hair and his makeup made me feel very uncomfortable with how they portrayed this man. I really didn't like it. So now let's move into how they then treated our queen, Lady Danbury. They tried to give her agency and they tried to show her taking control of her own life and tried to show her finding her own happiness. But what I have seen again and again, I'm trying not to get into the discourse of this particular show, but I do and have seen a few people say that Bridgerton does not know what to do with black women, and it is just always true. The black women on this show suffer. If you guys watched season one of the show, if you watched any of my other reviews, then you know I've talked ad nauseum about Marina. If you guys don't already know, I'm going to give you a spoiler, and I've spoiled it every fucking season, but Marina was not in the books. Well, Marina is in the book. She's not on the page. Marina is dead before the start of the books. Marina is already dead when the books start. She took her own life because of postpartum. And Eloise marries her husband. So in the show, they created a whole new kind of reimagining of Marina, where she is a black woman who gets knocked up by a man who dies, who then tries to steal or lie to Colin to get him to marry her so she wouldn't have an out of wedlock baby. Then Penelope ruins that. Then she gets married to her dead lover's brother, that he raises the kids. And all we can imagine is if it goes with the books, she is going to take her own life, and then Eloise is going to come in and snatch that man. It's a bad look. I really think the show is not going to have Marina take her own life. I could fully see the show Marina running away. I've said that before. If you guys are on the show, if you're watching, if you're a writer, please have Marina just run away to Paris. Just have her leave. Do not have her commit suicide on the show. I think the show's already hard enough the black woman on the show, and that just. So we have Marina. That's our other really big main black female character, right? And then we come to this show. Queen Charlotte is a black character whose husband is completely insane in the future, and she has no relationship with him, and she's deeply lonely. And then we have Lady Danbury, whose ex-husband raped her, and then we find out was sleeping with Violet's dad. It's not great with black women, and in particular Lady Danbury. It's frustrating because they could have made up anything for this character. I want you guys to know, in the books, we know nothing about Lady Danbury's past. We know that she has a grandson that's eventually going to marry a Bridgerton daughter. I believe it's a grandson or a grandnephew that's going to marry a Bridgerton daughter. So, but they could have made up anything for her past. She could have been deeply in love. She could have been in love. They actually could have just had her character be in love with her husband. Or they could have had her married to a really fucking hot black guy, and she and him just didn't get along. There was no reason for them to put her through the pain they put her through this season. And it's just upsetting because this happens to a lot of black characters. Now, I'm going to talk about race in Bridgerton later on, so I'm not going to go into it right now, but unfortunately for me, Lady Danbury as a character, her character journey, big fat F. Arsema as an actress, amazing. I think Arsema, who plays Lady Danbury in the past, fantastic actress, and I want to fucking point out, for all of you people who think British actors are better than American actors, Arsema is American. She got cast because she was in Britain and they didn't know she wasn't British. So I just want to say, I am always going to hype up Black American actors. I'm so excited for her. This is her first big job. I went to a Q&A where she talked to us a little bit about how this was her first big acting job. She's only been acting for a few years. Guys, she went to school for biophysics and also has, I think, if not her PhD, she also has her MS in something. She's a brilliant human being who now chose to be an actor. Her first big job is in this show. Brava, Arsema. Excellent work. But as far as the writing is concerned for this particular character, it's an F for me, dog. Let's go into Queen Charlotte. No notes. I think India is fantastic in this role. Obviously, I think she's a fantastic actress. I mentioned in my other review for this season, she won me over from minute 2. She is so good. And I love seeing the little... She throws in every once in a while something that Golda has done as Queen Charlotte, but she adds her own thing to it. It's interesting watching her character change from where she was in episode 1 to episode 6. There is a character journey. Yes, she is still stubborn and obstinate, but watching her turn all of her like stubbornness and obstinateness towards helping her husband was beautiful. I enjoyed the character. Obviously, I've already said this is also, though, another Black woman who is suffering. And she has moments of joy, but this is a woman who is on the struggle bus. She is going to struggle for the rest of her life. The show has made choices about casting Black women that, you know, it's not colorblind casting. They're very conscientious that they have cast Black women in these roles, and these characters are supposed to be Black women at a time where Black women weren't being respected. It's a very tricky thing to do, and I'm not sure that they always succeed. So I know it is a bummer to, while we get to see her be extremely happy, we also get to see her be mostly distraught all season long. And so it's a tricky thing that, again, like I said, I don't think the show is very successful at, but I think that the character is fantastic. The actor is fantastic. I enjoyed who she was all season. I honestly wish I got to see more of her. If anything, I wish I got to see more of her. The moments where we went back and forth from the past to the present, when I do my episode by episode breakdowns, when I talk about episode 5 in particular, really took away from more moments of me just spending with her. And there weren't many moments of vulnerability for her. And I know she felt like she couldn't be vulnerable. We have seen that again and again. She has to be strong, but it would have been nice to see more moments of vulnerability for her, because we certainly saw a shit ton of vulnerability for King George, and we didn't really get to see a lot of that for Queen Charlotte. And that kind of sucks, because what do we hate, guys? The strong Black woman trope. We hate it. Black women should be able to be soft and vulnerable and sad and happy, and we saw some of that from Queen Charlotte, but she had to be a lot of the season. And so If they have another season, I just want to continue to see her get to have moments of sadness and softness, and not always have to be so strong, because she had to be so strong this season because George, poor George. Let's talk about George. Corey broke my heart. Corey was great. Corey, I know in episode 1 I was like, damn, that man's fine. And at the end of the season, I'm just like, I want to hold you and I want to stroke you and I want to say it's okay. I want to say it's okay. I just thought Corey was wonderful. I thought that it was very clear to me that I think they put all of their writing prowess into King George. I'm not going to be able to talk a lot about if there was any ableism or anything like that. I do not suffer from bipolarism, so I cannot speak to that. And I wouldn't want to speak to that. But I do feel like they did try to portray what happened to people in this time period who were dealing with any sort of mental illness. And again, mental illness could be something like postpartum. It could be anything that you were dealing with. And it was just very difficult to watch. There were parts of this season with Corey's story where I was like, okay, I think I'm good on torture. I think I'm good on the torture. Like another scene of torture. It broke my heart, and I don't know if I'm being insensitive or what, but like at a certain point I was like, we get it. They are torturing this man. Can we get him out of that situation? But I really loved it. I loved King George. It broke my heart. It's why I cried on the very last episode. That is a character that I've grown to love over the course of the 6 episodes, and to know that like his mental illness only gets worse. It's not, this is the best it's going to be. If they continue the show, it will only continue to progress. But yeah, I loved Corey as King George. I love the character. Michelle Fairley as Princess Augusta. Great job. So good. This is a character that I think is portrayed a lot, especially in kind of upper crust British shows. You see a lot of this kind of like stick up her butt mother who is like, this is the way it's always been done. And I love that they put a spin on it. She loves her child. She loves her child when she has that conversation with Lady Danbury where she's just like, you know, the my husband died, and basically King George, it would have been, is it gonna be King George the second, I guess, King George III's grandfather, so maybe King George II, he treated her badly, he abused her son, and she has always just been looking out for him. I just think adding that motherly touch back into there is beautiful. It makes her character more fully rounded. And so I could have had problems with this character if they just kept it very blip, 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 blip. But they've made a lot of the mamas, except for the black mamas, all of the white mamas deeply care about their children. The black mamas do not. We'll talk about race later. She deeply cares about her baby. I thought it really helped the character, so I really enjoyed that as well. Again, I'm staying out of Discourse, so I am not quite sure what is being said about Sam Clement or about young Brimsley. I will just say, is it deeply sad that the queer characters in this story get paid dust? Yeah. Is it deeply sad that those characters basically give up their happiness for the happiness of straights? Yeah, it is. When he's dancing in the very last episode, when the older version of Brimsley is dancing in the last episode, is it just deeply upsetting? Yes. Do I want more of this story? Actually, yes. So if there's a season 2, or if they're going to continue Brimsley's story in Bridgerton, I actually kind of need that. Bridgerton so far has only really teased queer stories. Every once in a while we'll find out someone is gay. Benedict is not gay. I just feel like they kind of owe it to their viewers to, if you're going to have gay characters, let's finish out their storylines. Let's make them real people with real loves and real wishes that do not necessarily revolve around the straight characters in the show. So, if there is a season 2, I think that is one character, both him and his boyfriend deserve more story that's about them. And I think they have time to do that. I don't think I'm going to talk a whole lot about, Ruth Grimmel, Golda, or Adjoa. These are all the women who play the future versions of Lady Danbury, Lady Violet, and Queen Charlotte. We know those women. They do excellent work. One thing I do love, though. One thing I do love. I had said this ages ago, probably when the first Bridgerton trailer came out, the very, very first one. One of the things I've always hated about the books is that Lady Violet never got married again. every time people asked her about it, because she's not that old, I think she's like in her 50s, she started having kids very young. And so everyone's always like, when are you going to get married again? And she's always like, I'm sorry, I'm never going to love again. Edmund was the love of my life. This is a woman in her 50s with quite a bit of money who never takes another lover until she dies, just leaves the cobwebs on that puss. No, girl, open that puss back up. Get you an orgasm, honey. So I am so excited and thrilled for her. One of the things that Golda said at the Q&A I went to is that Shonda brought all the older women back because she wanted to show that life doesn't end when you get to a certain age. And it is so lovely that Shonda also recognized that the way the books treated Violet was kind of like, she just was there to help her children. That was her whole purpose. And seek her out all the time, and she is beautiful. And so I would love to see more of Lady Bridgerton being able to have a sex life and a life outside of her kids. How do I feel about what they did with Queen Charlotte in the future? Now that we're talking about it, didn't love it, I think. It just made her seem like a really awful mom and a really awful person. And if they're going to do anything with season 2, I would really like to see what happens over the course of time. Does she spend so much of her time caring for her husband that she doesn't have time for her children? Is that what happened? Because the show is just making it seem like she's a fucking terrible mom and a fucking terrible person, but she's dealing with so much, right? And so literally the weight of the kingdom, the weight of her children. We'll talk about historical inaccuracies in terms of her children's situation, but I do feel like they owe it to the future Queen Charlotte to really help us understand how she got to where she got to, because otherwise who she is in the current tense is just the character is just not as fully rounded as I feel like the character is in the past. They're trying to create a whole character in the past, and I think they also owe it to us to let us see a fully rounded Queen Charlotte in the future. Lady Danbury. I don't know what the fuck they doing with Lady Danbury. I'm gonna say I don't know. I don't know. They had her in the past. They had her in the future, and I don't understand the character. I guess I don't understand the character. She is half fairy godmother. She feels like she's a fairy godmother as character, but they're also trying to make her friends with everyone and be the liaison. And it feels like they haven't figured that character out. There's something missing there. There's something missing there, right? Can't be the only person who feels that way, right? There's just something about Lady Danbury's character, and seeing her, still have a thing for Violet's father. It's something about that character is not fully formed, or they haven't told us everything, or they thought it was going to work and it's not quite working. It's not quite working. Something about that character just doesn't work for me. Okay, we're done with all the characters, so let's move on. Overall, character journeys, how do we feel? Older ladies, some of it's younger people, mostly good, some of it So overall, for character journeys on the show, I think I'm going to give it just like a straight old B. Straight B. Historical and racial elements. Now, I have already spoken a long ass time ago in my very, very, very first, I think one of my very first videos for Bridgerton, I talked about how historically inaccurate the books are and or the TV show was. I talked about one of the two things. So like, I've already talked about it. A lot of the stuff that happens in the 1810s or a lot of the stuff happening in the 1780s and before, it's all over the place, guys. I mean, again, this is King George, who literally lost the colonies. This man is, so much is not happening on the screen that was happening in real life. He was so busy banging Charlotte in the show that he literally lost the colonies for England, like in the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War should be happening right now. All that fucking y'all see is why England lost the war. Okay, so yes, there are historical inaccuracies in that plot point, but one of the biggest issues, and my husband was on Wikipedia when he was watching this with me. My husband was like, why is Queen Charlotte worried about the grandkids and the succession? Something I also had a question about, because I have already looked into it. They had Prince Regent, George, is the next in the line. So their line of succession was already secured. So it did not quite make any sense to me. And so as we're watching the show, he's looking it up. And at this point in time, Queen Charlotte has something like 30 legitimate grandchildren. All of her kids, but one, had children. I have no idea why they decided to hang their hat on this plot point. It was not compelling. It made her seem like a terrible human being. And I'm not sure it really even worked with what was happening in the past. So much of the past and present storylines worked really well together, but this particular one with her kids, it didn't make any sense, and we didn't care about it, and it wasn't true. And I'm okay with them lying for story purposes. They say in the very first episode, this is fiction. This is so fictionalized. This is just them taking what happened in the past and putting their own spin on it, right? But this in particular didn't make any sense as the kind of like, this is why she's going after. No. By this point, she already had like 30 grandchildren. I just don't know what they were trying to say. Were they just trying to keep telling us that Queen Charlotte only cared about her husband and as a result didn't have time for her kids and as a result is not involved in their lives and as a result doesn't have a lot of sympathy? I don't understand, because the Queen Charlotte we see in the past does have sympathy. And yes, her shell is hardening as she starts to really lean into her queen role, but she does have sympathy. And so they're going to need to bridge the gap between who Queen Charlotte was and who Queen Charlotte becomes a lot more if they decide to do more seasons, because what's happening with Queen Charlotte in the present just doesn't quite work. And yeah, just as a historical background, that if I had to say historical inaccuracies, there's not even a point to talking about it or giving it a grade. The show already knows it fails on all points dealing with historical accuracies. They don't care about it because that's not the type of show this is. The show is not about historical whatever. The show is about romance. It's about relationships. So I'm not even going to give that a grade. It doesn't need a grade. They already know they don't care about it. So therefore, that's not something I need to care about. Now, let's talk about race. If I had to give a grade to anything dealing with race in the show, it would be an F minus 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 minus. Should I be deeply upset? Guys, I've already been upset. You can't get upset if you stay upset. Season 1 of this show told me right off the bat that this show did not care about Black women. Season 1 of the show told me they sure as hell didn't care about dark-skinned Black women. It said in Season 1 that the marriage between Queen Charlotte and George healed race relations in England. Bitch, I saw what happened with Meghan Markle and Harry. Ain't shit getting fixed. Also, we have a show where they just don't fucking talk about slavery, which is happening right now, which England is participating in. And then we have Lady Danbury saying we want equality when some of her people are being enslaved by the very system she wants to be a part of. Motherfuckers, what? This show is terrible with race. It fucking sucks when it talks about race. It never should have been about race. This shit should have been colorblind casting, because when they talk about race, they fail. It's a fail. It's a fail. It's a fail. When it comes to colorism, this show hates dark-skinned Black women. Like I already said, then we see Queen Charlotte. Suffer all motherfucking season. Suffer all motherfucking season. Yes, the show sucks with race. Let's talk about season 2. Let's just take it all the way back to season 2. Now we're back in season 2. We saw 2 dark-skinned brown women get literally second fiddle to the white women in season 2. Featheringtons and Eloise had just as much screen time as Kate and her sister. So yes, the show sucks on race. It's always sucked on race. If you're just now being awoken to that fact, welcome. It has sucked about race since what? When the show came out? 2020? It has sucked since then. I'm fired up because of 2 different things. One, I am fired up because I feel like there's some people just now realizing that this show has all of its creators' biases baked into the show. I'm mad if you were just now realizing that. I should have realized it from the first season. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I think that's part of why I'm not being really involved on the discourse of it all. This show has already disappointed me. I've already been disappointed. They can't hurt me anymore. Why do you watch a show where Black women are treated poorly? Bitch, because we're treated poorly everywhere. We're treated poorly not only in media created by white creators, but we're treated terribly in media created by Black creators, particularly dark-skinned Black women. We are treated like shit everywhere. If I refuse to watch if I refuse to watch dark-skinned Black women being treated bad, I would have very few shows to watch. If I was going to be upset, I would never watch TV again, and I probably would have to stop acting. It sucks. It just sucks. It sucks. Just can't do, like, we should boycott the show because it's bad. It's been bad. It's been bad. I And again, if I needed to boycott shows that treated Black women bad, I would probably never be able to watch television again. Okay? And listen, I watched Vampire Diaries. I've been through it, okay? So, yeah, show F minus 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 when it deals with race. And I am glad we all realize it, and I'm gonna move on. Do you like that rant? It was a lot, right? I'm probably going to edit part of that out. I'm sure my husband's going to be like, Miata, you went on for 45 minutes. Okay, so before I give a full-ass grade to the whole-ass season, I'm just going to give you guys my favorite episodes. Actually, list your favorite episodes in the comments. If you've made it this far, give me your favorite episodes in the comment section. My favorite episodes were episode 3 and 4. I think the transition from 3 to 4 was lovely. I thought episode 3 was a beautiful episode, and then going into the devastation of episode 4. And I think that's also why I hated episode 5 so much, because it was such a beautiful study and portrait of a man, to then immediately be in a world where we're focusing on the older ladies, and we're focusing a lot on Lady Danbury, and then we've got, Princess Augusta over here, and I just really wanted to go back to the two lovebirds. So, I think those were my two favorite episodes, and I also really liked episode 6. I cried twice on episode 6. I cried when they said they loved each other, and then I cried at the very end when he said, "You didn't go over the wall." Waterworks. So, I guess episodes 3 and 4 were my favorite, followed by episode 6. The pilot was also quite strong. But, like, all of the episodes were very good, but those are just my favorites. Overall grade for the season, B+. I thought it was excellent. Again, if I haven't already said it in this review, I think I said it at the top, but I've been talking for a full hour. I love this as much as I loved the first season of Bridgerton. This season of television, Queen Charlotte was tight. The characters more or less knew who they were. They mostly kept to the story of Queen Charlotte and George without going off track too much. We didn't have a lot of other distractions. I really loved it. I really, really, really loved it. I would love to see a season 2. Again, with the caveat that I'm not sure I could stand very much more of George's torture, or any more of watching George suffer. That's what season 2 is going to involve. That's going to be very difficult. I would love to see more Queen Charlotte, and the show is called Queen Charlotte. So if they want to focus more on just Queen Charlotte in a season 2, I am all here for it. I want to see more of what happens to her in her life to become the person that we know her from in the Bridgerton series. So overall, B+. I thought it was great. I had no problems watching this show. I did not need alcohol for this show. I needed alcohol for season 2. But I will be drinking for my episode by episode review. So we're about to wrap up. So what's going to happen next, you guys, is that obviously I am going to do what I did last season. I'm going to go by episode and give you guys kind of my, as I'm watching, thoughts. I'm just going to watch the show, be giving running commentary as I watch the show. I'm probably not going to make any money from it because I keep getting hit with copyright infringements because the show loves music and then they take all my money. In fact, my highest watched video of last season, 112,000 views. I made no money from it. Am I going to learn from this? No. As always, guys, I'm just lucky to have you guys hang out with me. If you made it this far, I'm thankful. If you didn't make it that far, that's okay too. As always, remember to like, subscribe, thumbs up, and I'm going to see you guys super duper soon for my review of episode 1. All right, bye guys.